Yes, let's go live, StreamYard. Hello, everyone. It's Monday, June 10th, 2024 at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you know what that means. That means Unfound live show. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. We're already to the almost the middle of June, if you can believe it. And it's already been 2 weeks since Memorial Day. I don't know where the time goes. And but so far so good here in Florida. It has been absolutely beautiful here, but starting about midnight tonight, I think it's supposed to rain for about 36 hours straight. We got some little tropical storm or something coming in. And so that's going to make everybody's life here a little uglier. Because but truthfully, I can't really remember the last time we had a really, really severe rainstorm here. It's been a while, is what I'm saying. And so I guess we're due. And I'll be fine. I'll maybe if it's really bad, I'll take a little video and post it for everybody. But it's coming in from the west, like I said, about midnight tonight. Even though it was absolutely beautiful out there, it's today it's beautiful out there even tonight as the sun is now down. But yep, we're due for some weather, and it's going to last, like I said, 36 hours. Then I think it's supposed to rain into Thursday as well. So it's going to be, so if anybody's, I hope nobody planned for their vacation down here this week. Unfortunate for them. They should have scheduled it for last week. So what do I have on tap for all of you tonight? Let's do a little preview. I'm going to talk to you about Brandon Barron. Of course, that's a disappearance that we featured last year. And hopefully all of you remember that Brandon's remains were found. But there's some more specifics on that. Got some Panky letters to read to you, not every word of every letter, but he sent me 3 letters, and I'm going to read sections of all 3. I want to talk about the Tyler North saga. His murder and the trial has come to an end. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Cherie Mahan. This is personal to me because she went missing in 1985, not far from where I was at the time. She went missing in the Saxonburg area, and I grew up in Leechburg, so only about 20 minutes away from maybe 25, maybe a half hour from where I lived at the time in 1985, and there's been some news about that. I also want to go over, I'm going to give some insights into that. Now that I do disappearances, what do I think I can offer regarding that? I want to talk about this couple that's gone missing, a woman and her boyfriend and his daughter who went missing from the Northwest. And I want to talk to you. What else? What else? I want to talk about the disappearance and the discovery of the remains of this guy, Michael Mosely, who I guess was famous on British TV. He went for a walk, and then unfortunately his remains were found. He was found deceased, very sadly. No allegations of foul play. But I still want to talk about it because this is what we do. And we know that we have some disappearances where the facts are similar. And so maybe that will give us some insight into these still unsolved disappearances. So who's here? Hello, everything. Everything is still in 2023. Have not changed it to 2024 yet, I see. Hello, Karen. Hello, Lisa. What's up with you? Kathy, Jasmine, Michelle, Charlotte, Amy. Thank you for moderating, Cherie. Cherie says, about to rain here in South Texas too. 98 degrees and humid. Perfect. Yeah. That's the way it's been here too, Cherie. And I guess that rain's going to work its way across the Gulf of Mexico over here to Florida. Charlene, hello, Charlene, over there in Ireland. And good to see you, Charlene. I hope you're doing well. Hello, Hazel. What's up in New Zealand? So we got the whole gamut. We got Ireland. We got New Zealand. It's just crazy. Who would think of it? Thunk it. All right, just some other things before I go into all of those topics for tonight's spectacular live show. By the way, give this video a thumbs up before and after, or mainly during. Subscribe to this channel, whether you're watching this on YouTube or whatever. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please give this live show podcast a nice review. And if you'd like to go one step further, hit the join button below, get some stuff that other people don't. And also you get some additional content if you were to sign up at patreon.com/Unfound podcast if you are looking at the screen right now. Just some things going on with me. Last Wednesday, of course, trivia. We're getting down near the end of the trivia quarter. I think we have two more weeks now. And my team continues. It's not really my team. Our team continues to be in first place. We did okay on Wednesday. Most of the regulars were not there. Of the regular people who are on the team, it was just two of us are regulars. The three others just show up a little. Well, the one woman has moved to Vermont. She just happens to be back here right now. She was there. And then a couple other guys who appear periodically showed up, thankfully. But all of the other regulars are out of town somewhere. Scott, Mike, my brother Brian and his wife, they're all out of town. But some of them will be back this week. So we had a kind of a patch together a team last week, and we still did okay. Managed to keep our place, managed to stay in first place. Although we didn't bet any points on the final question, and we got the final question. It was like Jeopardy. You get the final question right, but you don't bet any money. That's kind of what happened here. But still, although we didn't finish first last Wednesday night, we managed to stay in first place overall by 30-some points or something. So we're still in a very, very nice position. Had we bet any points, even though we got it right, we would have been way ahead. But and it was a baseball question, so I'm not going to get into that. I kind of knew it, but didn't want to put any points on it in case we got it wrong. I think we did it right. A little remorse there, but we're still in first. 2 weeks to go. We're in a good position. And so that was Wednesday evening. In addition, my Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm following them, listening to them. They're doing okay. They're under 500, but they're getting better. They play at St. Louis the next 3 days, tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. And they just had a homestand where they went 4-2. They won series against the Dodgers and the Twins, who both have winning records and are thought to really be in the playoff hunt. So that was pretty good. They were getting a lot of great pitching from their starters. Middle relief, iffy. But their closing guys, Chapman, last name Chapman, David Bednar, they seem to have finally found themselves, I think, after a little rough start to the season. But the middle relief, and they continue to have some guys in their lineup, but who are like almost automatic outs. Luckily, all the other guys, like the other 5 guys in the lineup, are doing really well. 3 or 4 of those other guys, who I guess they have no choice but to put them in there because that's who's on the roster, really bringing them down right now. So, but I'm following them. I listen to them on my phone when I'm doing work here, day or evening or wherever. But they didn't play today. Today was an off day. They play tomorrow. So I'm into that. And then the other personal kind of private, I don't know if it's private or anything, but the other thing I'm taking an interest right now is the U.S. men's soccer team, although they got blown out. Blown, as they say in Western Pennsylvania, blown out on Saturday evening against Columbia. It didn't mean anything, kind of just what they call a friendly, just two teams getting together to kick the ball around. They didn't look good, and the score showed it. And they have a big tournament coming up in a week and a half. So, and they play another kind of preseason game on Wednesday night against Brazil. Once again, doesn't mean anything, but you'd like for them to be competitive, and they were not competitive on Saturday. They looked like they were just going through the motions. So it was very unfortunate, very worrisome. A lot of people hate the coach. So we'll see. But I'm really excited about sports overall this summer because of the Pirates. My Pittsburgh Pirates seem to be, I think they're going to be able to keep it together due to their pitching this year. Really interested to see how the summer turns out there. We got this, what they call the Copa America, that's happening here in the United States, where Canada, U.S., Mexico, Panama, and some other teams are playing against teams from South America. So Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay, big tournament that's starting next week. It's going to be all over the TV. Really excited about that. This Friday, we got the Euro Cup, where it's a bunch of European teams. So Germany, Italy, France, all of them, England. They're playing in a big tournament, and that's going to go on for a month as well. So you got these two big, huge soccer tournaments happening at the same time, and it's all going to be on TV. And then on top of that, we also have the Summer Olympics in Paris that are coming up. I'm really excited about that. Got so much great sports stuff happening this summer, and I'm going to try to catch most of it. Probably watching a lot of it while I'm doing Unfound work. I can't watch and do any writing at the same time. Anytime I'm writing anything out, like an outline or like the part that I read, what we might call the script for each Friday episode, the part that I just do by myself, I write that out. Those things I can't have any music on or anything. I really need to concentrate on that. Everything else, though, where I work on Unfound, maybe just looking up cases, looking up news articles, things like looking at maps and things like that. Then I can have music or the TV on her. So that's what I'll be doing while I'll be watching all this sports stuff over the next couple of months. I'm really, really excited about all of it, even if the United States doesn't do well. However, I really hope my Pirates do well. So that's what's going on with me. In addition, I'm continuing to practice my singing at least 4 days a week, really trying to give my voice a little more of a break than I have, and it seems to be paying off. What I'm really doing is on those 4 or 5 days, I'm really, really hitting it hard with the scales and working on my chest voice in contrast to my head voice and all that, really going back and forth between days, really concentrating on that. And I'm really singing some songs now. I don't know if they're karaoke ready yet, but I'm singing them some songs that getting into that range where I could not sing them a couple months ago. So I think what I'm doing, giving my voice a rest for a couple of days and hitting it hard, maybe 4 days a week, I think that seems to be the right mixture at the time right now. So we'll keep working on it. I've been working on it. It's been a year and a half now, and my voice has certainly come a long way. But you get into this and you realize this isn't just something you can wake up and do. Maybe some prodigies can or something. But for the rest of us, you really have to work on it. And if you want to get to the point where you want to be able to sing songs from Dio, like Ronnie James Dio, or Iron Maiden, or Def Leppard or Judas Priest or whatever else. It takes some work. That's all I'm telling you. But I'm getting there. Little by little, I am really seeing progress, and I'm really excited about it. Just like I said, it's going to take some time. So let's see what everybody is saying here before I get into the first news of the night. I did not see that about San Antonio. Good trivia result. Good move. Well done. Staying on top. Trying to do that, Hazel. And Cherie says, and Astros baseball. Your Astros are not good this year, Cherie. I've seen the record. I've seen some of their scores. For once, my Pirates may be better than your Astros, at least right now in the month of June. Kathy says, love the Olympics, both winter and summer. Me too. Summer certainly bigger for me than winter, Kathy. I'm all into like the track events, and I love watching the track events and the relays and the long distance running and everything. I'm not so much into the basketball and some of those other things. Winter, my favorite, of course, winter Olympic sport is curling. Lisa, Ed, thinking about Friday's episode and trash shoots, there's a podcast, Phoebe's Fall. The 24-year-old woman who plummeted feet first down the garbage compactor and bled to death in the dark. It happens. There you go. I'm not familiar with that podcast, but there you go, Lisa. Thank you. After desperately crawling out of a bin for help after right foot was almost severed off. Yeah, I don't think there was any trash compactor at the bottom of this one. There isn't a trash compactor at the bottom of the one here in this building, but certainly some buildings do have those. Cherie says, I'm the same. Can't watch and write. Can't work without listening to something, though, even if I have no idea what I'm listening to. Blame it on ADD. All right, Cherie. Yeah, I have to pick my spots when it comes to the TV and music and my work and everything else. Have to pick my spots. All right, let's get into the true crime news for the past week. I'm going to start with the Elaine Johnson poll. Fairly straightforward one that I put in the discussion group. And it was a very simple question, and let me read it to you right now. The question was very simple. What happened to Elaine Johnson? The three choices were, she went down the chute by choice or by accident. It's combined. She went down the chute by force, so somebody put her in there. Or she did not go down the trash chute. And kind of split on this one. 56% of people in the discussion group answered she went down the chute by force. So somebody put her in there. I did not ask if anybody thought Brian did it or anybody else. It's just she went down the chute by force. 56% of the respondents said, yes, that's their answer. So this is foul play of some type. 43% said she did not go down the trash chute. So somehow she went out of that building, whether she walked out or, as I mentioned in the episode, could she have been killed and put in a suitcase or something, as we know some killers have done. There was, of course, the suitcase killer in Texas some years ago. And then only 1% said she went down the chute by choice or accident. So only 1% of the people are thinking that this could be some type of suicide. And that's interesting because I showed examples in the episode where people surely do choose to go down those trash chutes by themselves. Even within the last 6 months, those three stories that I talked about, none of those people went into those chutes by force. They were all put in there. I think all those people went in there by choice. And also really debate, whether an accident is really, I don't think you fall into one of these things. But so that was what the discussion group on Facebook said. If you're not yet in the discussion group on Facebook, please find the Unfound podcast discussion group and ask to be let in. So that was what the discussion group thought. What did the think tank group, think. And the think tank group, as I've talked about before, would love for you to take part, is where a bunch of disappearance intellectuals get together and we talk about very specific points of the disappearance that is presented that particular week. So for, of course, yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we went deep into the disappearance of Elaine, me asking some very pointed questions, looking for everybody's insights, theories. I've been doing that since the beginning of 2019. And you need to be a Patreon member at least the $12 a month level to take part. I hope you will consider joining. But in there, as far as what people's theories were, and you have to keep in mind it's a very small group, more mixed. It was a combination of she walked off, Brian could have done it, she committed suicide, very more mixed. Maybe kind of like the discussion group, but I don't think there was such a heavy idea on foul play in the think tank. I would not say that would be true. Although I have to admit, there were more people who answered the discussion group poll than usually take part in the think tank. Like I said, it's an exclusive group of people. If you'd like to be exclusive, just go to patreon.com and sign up right now. So Ed, what did you have to say about the disappearance of Elaine Johnson? And I do write a blog. I write it and then I record it. So it's like you're getting an additional podcast every week. They're usually about 17 to 18 minutes long, where I tell you about my reasoning for the disappearance of that week. And so if that's something, if you'd like to get some additional content from yours truly, all you have to do is sign up at patreon.com for $2 a month. It's a pretty good deal. And if you sign up for a whole year, you get a discount. I have to tell you, I decided that she went into the trash chute by choice. And if you want to know why I came to that conclusion, go to patreon.com and sign up. So I'm in that one. I just talked about the discussion group. Only 1% of the people. So I guess one person picked that choice. And I don't answer my own poll questions. I'm in that 1% category. I'm in a very, very small minority. Can't say I'm that surprised, but that is the conclusion that I reached while working on Elaine's disappearance for, I guess, about the past 6 weeks. We all are free to think what we want. There's no judgment here. We don't argue about theories here. We don't stake out our ideas and then make fun of others. We don't do that here. Now, one thing maybe that I should have explained, and I hope all of you watched my video. It was kind of a unique video for Elaine's disappearance, where I actually went right out here, and you got to see kind of my view from the 8th floor here in just south of Sand Key and near Clearwater Beach. And I got to show you the trash chute in my building. And so, this is one of those disappearances where my experience is very relevant. A lot of times when we start talking about custody issues and being married and everything, I don't know anything about any of that. But you talk to me about trash chutes, and I'm like, I know that topic, because as I was telling the think tank members last night, the trash chute is so close to my front door of my condo, I don't even keep trash cans in my place anymore. If I have any trash, I just walk it right out to the chute. It's kind of nice. It's really, really convenient. Just open up that door and slide that thing out and throw it down. Pretty slick. And so I don't keep trash cans in here anymore. Like I said, if you can do that, wow, it really, I just don't see that stuff, and I don't have to worry about it or think about it. It's pretty cool. One thing, though, I didn't mention something that needs to be maybe understood, something that may play into Elaine's disappearance, depending on what you think happened, is that, well, the question is, well, what happens when they come to get these bins and they have to take them out there? And what about the trash chute then? Because what happens in our building is that trash gets collected, I think, every Monday. And at some point, all the trash bins are wheeled out to there, so because the garbage truck can't come into the parking garage where it is, it's too low, or the truck's too high. So they have to take the bins out there, and they sit out there until the garbage truck comes, and then I don't know if the garbage people do that or staff here on the grounds does that. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the whole step-by-step process. But if you're wondering what happens when they take the bins away, is that there's actually a door down on the bottom floor that closes. So they close that door so none of the trash that gets put in the chute during that time comes down and ends up on the ground. So it comes down, it hits that door, and well, what happens, of course, it stacks up inside the chute. And then when they put the bins back in place, they open up that door again. Of course, then everything slides down into the bin, and the door stays open the rest of the time until the next week they have to take the bins back out. So I should have probably put that in the video just to make sure everybody, because I'm sure somebody probably thought of that. They're watching that. If you're not familiar with trash chutes, living in a building like this, what do they do? Well, there's a door that kind of closes and stays closed, or locks or something down there that then keeps the trash from hitting the ground, and they go in there and then open up and it comes back out. Just so if you were wondering, the finer points of trash chutes. You never know what you're going to get into and what you're going to learn about the world when you get into studying disappearances. So I'm trying to pass that along to you. Hazel says, I don't believe Elaine went away voluntarily. As an alcoholic, should never have been able to function without resources. I don't recall if anything was said about Brian's comment on her mood that day. Really didn't have to say much. The video, Amy says the video was helpful. You're welcome. Lisa, I enjoyed your video in your building. I lived in a building with one, and for some reason, it always frightened me. The only thing that's frightening about a trash chute to me, Lisa, is when I go out there to throw something in there, and just as I'm opening up that door to put my trash in, trash is coming down from some other higher floor. And you have to remember, this building's 20 stories tall. So by the time it gets to the 8th floor, if somebody's up on the 20th floor and drops trash, that trash is moving. It's falling fast. And that'll scare you because it just comes out of nowhere. It's like, it's real silent one. Whoom. Other than that, I don't know. Stephanie, respect, of course. I was a little concerned for your safety and showing details of where you live. Stephanie, I appreciate that. Pretty much everybody knows where I live. You can easily get on any of the databases out there and find out my current address. I'm really not that worried about it. I appreciate that, though. Although I haven't gotten any recently, maybe, and I don't know why this has changed. Very early on in Unfound's existence, maybe those first couple of years, I did get some threats, kind of things like, well, I better never see you out in public or something like that. But that really has not happened for a while. I'm not saying I haven't ticked people off. I mean, it's kind of my job, especially if they're disappearances where it's believed it's murder. It's the way it goes. But I really don't worry about that too much. Because you have to remember something. I live in a building that does have security down there. It does have a bunch of cameras all over this. In fact, they just put in a new camera system within the last 2 years. You need a key code to get onto the elevators in this building. And then, of course, we have the front door here that is hurricane proof. Over here, my front door is hurricane proof. And as I've stated, I am a concealed carry person and all of that, but I appreciate it. I of course, when I lived down Deer Beach, I lived right on the street. Maybe that's a little different. But where I live now, but I appreciate everybody, Stephanie, thinking about that. But I'm pretty much a homebody, and that it really does. At this point, it just maybe doesn't even register. I loved your trash shoot video. Hazel says, very interesting, cool to see your environment. So as handy to just bob out to shoot. I'd personally love that option. I do love that option, especially as a bachelor, Hazel. Carol, hello, Carol. Hazel, little information was given about Brian. We just know what he said that day. All we know is that he said last time he saw her, she was washing clothes. I don't know. I'm not saying Jody was lying. I believe her, but we also have to remember this is 30-some years ago. And are we sure that story wasn't changed? I was talking to her on the phone, and she said she was washing clothes, to now, he actually saw her in person. I think we have to consider that. Thanks, Carol. I couldn't call. Remember, you voluntary told police. Yep. Lisa, I was in a similar secure condo building. One time, one of the security guys told me, wow, you work out for an hour. He was watching me on the video cameras. That's creepy. Yes, I do have my gun collection, Hazel. That is true. I wouldn't mess with the guy who knows how disappearances happen. That's right, Rockford. That's right. Thank you. I will admit, you have to also remember, I'm pretty much a homebody. And of course, I don't have any kids or anything. So I don't know. But on the other hand, if I'm not ticking certain people off and everything, then I'm not doing my job. So it's just the way it goes. I happen to believe that your average reporter out there reporting on the news or something, they probably have to think about this stuff as well. All right. Moving on. I want to talk about Brandon Barron. This disappearance we covered last year. And then you'll remember that his remains were eventually found by accident. You'll remember that this is the disappearance where his parents encountered him. They were afraid of him. He had been making threats against them online. And then that day around his disappearance, they saw him walking along the road near their house. They kept driving. He never did make it to their house. But he was found by accident. Some people, I don't know, doing some landscaping or clearing out some brush or something, came upon his remains. He was deceased. And since last Monday, I think it was his mother who posted more specifics on what actually happened and how his body was found. And I'm just going to read what she wrote. I've not spoken to his parents since this came out, so I just don't know any more than any of you do as far as what's public. So I'm just going to read what she wrote this past week. June 24th, 2020 was the very last day that my son was seen, and the very last day our son Brandon Lee Barron was alive. This date is stamped in my memory. For over 3 years, we have handed out posters everywhere that we went to, have done a podcast. We were at the police station trying to get answers. We've talked to everyone that could help in trying to find our son. We've done everything that you could possibly do, including being our own detective and getting a private investigator to get help, but no one could find anything, including searching with cadaver dogs. We finally got our answer on November 16th, 2023. A couple of workers came across our son's remains. We got the call the same day that he was found. Our detective knew the same day that it was our son. Brandon's remains were in a fetal position, and most of his remains were still there. We still had to wait a week to make sure it was our son. I knew my son wasn't coming to us, and we knew the longer he was gone, he was deceased. All we know is our son laid down, went to sleep, and didn't wake up. There was no trauma. We were still grieving for our son, and all we wanted for our son is that he knew that he was loved unconditionally. To our son, you will never be forgotten. So what can we make of this? Given that what I would say is that given that he was found in a fetal position, it does not sound to me like he was walking along and collapsed. So we might imagine an overdose or something. He's walking through the woods, his heart stops, and he just falls over. This doesn't sound like that. This sounds like it was something that was more planned. I don't know if it leads me to believe that this happened on purpose, or when he laid down there in the fetal position that he knew he was going to die. It's hard to say. Certainly could be that he was just feeling tired, laid down, and then he had an overdose or some health issue. Certainly possible. What also, though, occurs to me is this kind of also sounds to me like Crystal Morrison all over again. That we have to remember, as she states right here at the beginning of what she wrote, it was June, and it was it was warm out. And given that Brandon had been doing drugs and everything, we have to suspect that his body was not as conditioned to fight the elements as maybe the rest of us who take care of ourselves, stay away from drugs, alcohol, those things. Because those things do affect how efficiently your body works. And could this just simply have been heat stroke? And I'm going to get into that when we talk about this Michael Mosely story as well. I think we have to be open to this, given that it was the fetal position. It very well may be that he's walking along, feeling tired, overheated, says, you know what, I'm just going to lie down here for a little bit. But really, it's heat stroke. He's dehydrated. And that's what happened. It certainly doesn't necessarily sound to me like some sort of sudden death. Now, why wasn't he found when they were searching for it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I've known that his remains were found for a while now. I will admit I haven't gone to a map to try to figure out where it was. What were these people doing out there that they came across the remains? Why wasn't he found before? This is going to be like an eternal question. As long as Unfound exists, that's always going to be a question. Why wasn't he found before? Because he was found not too far away from where they last saw him. So that's where the search was, and nothing was found. I don't know. I don't have any answers for you, as I usually don't in these situations. I apologize. What this also does, though, I think, and this was kind of surprising to me, was that a lot of people were suspicious of Brandon's. When this episode came out last year, a lot of people suspicious of his parents. You know, I have to admit, that was not something that even occurred to me preparing the episode, doing the interviews, recording it, presenting it to all of you. Never occurred to me that anybody would go there with this disappearance, but several people did. I hope this puts that to rest. I hope the finding of his remains and knowing what the position he was in, the position, fetal position he was in, that there's no signs of foul play, no shots, no stabbings, nothing like that, not strangled or anything. I hope that really puts all of that to rest. So I wanted to read that to you. And this, I think Brandon Barron's disappearance is a very common type. Whether the person has a drug issue or an alcohol issue, mental health issues, people walking off, in the elements, whether it's really, really hot out or really, really cold out. All of that has to be considered. But disappearances are about people, and you're talking about a young man who had his share of problems. He's out there on a June day in one of our southern states. It's going to be warm out. He's, his body has been racked by the addictions and problems that he created for himself, not in a position to be out there. In fact, I can remember, how long ago was it? 4 years ago or something like that. There was this guy who, older than Brandon, but he was known as being a long distance, not a famous guy, not a famous runner, but amateur long distance runner somewhere in California. And he always ran the same route, and he never came home, and they went looking for him. And where did they find him? They found him under some tree. He certainly died. Maybe it was heat stroke that finally brought upon a heart attack, but they found him underneath a tree, deceased. So even for somebody like that, who's well-conditioned, lives in the area, trains in those conditions, knows all of the dangers and everything else, those kinds of people can succumb to the elements as well. And I'm guessing maybe one of you will look that story up. I'm thinking it was certainly after I moved into this building. So it would have been within the last 4 years of some guy, family man, died in some park in Southern California during a run or something. Maybe somebody can look that up. And they looked for him. Did he get abducted? What could have happened to him? Did a coyote or something or get him? And they ended up finding him under a tree, deceased. It very well may be that he realized that something wasn't right, but he realized too late. Carol says, heat stroke sounds reasonable, awful hot in Florida right now. That is true. Brandon didn't disappear in Florida, but it was southern states. And I'll get into that. I want to talk about my own personal recent experience with that here. Thank you for bringing that up, Carol. I recall there was suspicion on the parents. I also hope that will fall away. Bad enough losing a child without the trauma of being accused of having been responsible. Yeah. Sup, Jill? Drug users usually aren't using in the open. If his spot was secluded, it's not surprising it took a few years. Had it been 3 weeks or 15 years later, we could ask why it wasn't sooner. Yeah. Yeah, Arkansas. Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Brandon Barron disappeared in Arkansas. Now, regarding my recent story, kind of the same thing. And this just shows you how touchy our bodies can be under this situation. You might remember 3 weeks ago, I played in a disc golf tournament right over here, and it really wasn't even that hot out yet. The whole day was kind of overcast. Sun was not brightly shining, although the clouds kind of do keep the heat in. The heat comes in, it has a tougher time getting out. But the sun was not blazing. It was not 95 degrees out. However, I had started to get sick the day before, and I shouldn't have probably ever been out there. But I surely played the second round of that disc golf tournament on that Saturday with signs of being dehydrated and having heat exhaustion or something. But because I'm crazy, I continued to play. And one of the ways you could tell is if you're outside and it's hot out and everything, and the hair starts standing up on your arms, that's one of the signs your body is reacting very negatively to the environment that you're in. And the hair on my arms was like that for about 4 hours straight. And to tell you the difference, now I shouldn't have been out there. When I started getting that sore throat on that day before, on that Friday, I should have said, you can't play, Ed. Don't go do that. Did it, regretted it. And surely the sickness stayed around longer because now once longer because of it. Now, once I got home, I took a cold shower. I went back to bed and everything. The heat exhaustion stuff went away, but I was still sick. Whereas just last weekend, though, totally different situation. It was actually way hotter out over here at Taylor when I played. Started playing at like 2 in the afternoon. We know that the hottest time of the day is usually that 2 to 5 o'clock time. I was out there. I wasn't sick, and there was no problems at all. But just being a teeny little bit sick on that day 3 weeks ago put my body into a heat exhaustion type of situation. Whereas when I went over there last weekend, although I didn't play very well, because I wasn't sick and everything was fine, I played it. It was just like nothing. So this is also what I think about when I think about Brandon Barron and realizing that if your body is not 100% right, can easily get into a bad situation. Oh, yes, you were close to passing out. I was close. Hey, Hazel, I was close to passing out. I played like 3 weeks ago over here playing in my friend Aaron's tournament. Yeah, and I played horribly, really bad. But I stuck it out, but I didn't think I was going to make it. But I did. And I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. And surely if anybody else had been telling me that they were in the same situation, I would have told them, you shouldn't be playing, you should go home. Go into your car, get in the air conditioning, drink a lot of cold fluids, lay down. That's what I'd be telling them. Me, I'm going out to play a second round. Stupid. So I think it's all very important. And so because of that, let's go to this other story that kind of is the companion piece to kind of express what I mean here. And I think this is very important because I am convinced that we have featured, although we don't know it right now because the remains haven't been found, the bodies haven't been found, the people haven't been found. But I am convinced we have covered many disappearances where this is the outcome. It just hasn't been proven yet. This goes to Michael Mosely. And the body of missing British doctor and TV presenter Michael Mosely was found Sunday morning, so just yesterday, on the Greek island where he was last seen. The discovery followed a huge search operation that got underway after Mosely disappeared while on a walk Wednesday, so walk 5 days ago. Michael was an adventurous man. It's part of what made him so special. It's devastating to have lost Michael, my wonderful, funny, kind, and brilliant husband. We had an incredibly lucky life together. We loved each other very much, and we're so happy together. Mosley's wife said he took the wrong route on a hike and collapsed in a place where he could not be seen easily. Authorities confirmed earlier Sunday that a body was found amid what had become an extensive multi-day search for Mosely, but they did not publicly identify the remains. CBS News partner network BBC News cited Greek police spokesperson as saying saying Monday that an initial postmortem exam found no injuries on Mosley's body that could have caused his death and that it was being attributed to natural causes. Mosley's time of death was recorded as late on Wednesday afternoon. The body was found on a rocky coast by searchers on a private boat, about a 30-minute walk from the village of Petty, where Mosely was believed to be seen Wednesday before disappearing. Mosely went missing Wednesday afternoon on the Greek island of Simi after going for a walk. His disappearance last week prompted a major search operation involving the Coast Guard, police and fire officials who used drones, a police dog, and helicopters. They worked through several days of high temperatures, very important, to locate him. The island's mayor told the AP he was on the boat with members of the media when they saw a body some 20 meters above the Aegea Marina Beach a little after 10 a.m. We zoomed with the cameras and saw it was him. The mayor said the body appeared to have fallen down a steep slope, stopping against a fence and lying face up with a few rocks on top of it. The body had a leather bag in one hand. A cameraman with State TV ERT also said on the boat. Okay. Mosely, 67 years old, was well known in Britain for his regular appearances on television and radio and his column in the Daily Mail newspaper. He was nominated for a 2022 Emmy Award for his work as an executive producer on the science documentary The Human Face. Outside of the UK, Mosley was known for his 2013 book, The Fast Diet. The book proposed the so-called 5-2 diet, which promised to help people lose weight quickly by minimizing their calorie intake 2 days a week while eating healthily on the other 5. Mosley often pushed his body to extreme lengths to see the effect of his diets, and also lived with tapeworms in his guts for 6 weeks for the BBC documentary Infested Living with Parasites. Okay. So we have a guy who was known to take risks, might have been a little overconfident, and maybe, he's 67 years old. You're not 27 anymore. Very well could be a variety of things, the kind of the Swiss cheese model of risk that they talk prominently about in plane crashes, where all of those holes, these little slices of Swiss cheese, at some point they all line up, the holes all line up, and the problem can go right through all of them. And this is what this sounds like to me. It's hot. He's lost. He's in unfamiliar territory. He's probably ticked off about being lost. And he's a doctor. And he's known to challenge himself with all these very things. Your ego starts kicking in, as my ego kicked in when I was playing disc golf 3 weeks ago and wouldn't walk off the disc golf course, even though I was suffering heat exhaustion, the same thing. And these all lined up for him to die. I'm convinced that we've covered many disappearances, not these exact circumstances on an island and climbing up a mountain or whatever, but I just have to believe that. I really have to believe that. But misadventure, and this goes for all of you, and then including myself in this, you have to take these things seriously. Easy for me to talk, being that I didn't 3 weeks ago. But heat exhaustion and getting lost and being in unfamiliar territory and going out in hot weather and not having water with you and not being, not going for shade and all of these things, it can all line up and it will kill you. And if you're really out there somewhere where people don't know where you are or something, then you will go missing and you might end up on this podcast. Don't do that. Don't make me cover you as a missing person on this podcast. Now I've had heat exhaustion happen to me before, but it's been a while. But it was easier for me to stop because I was just having some practice rounds over in Orlando, where I certainly tried to play 2 of these courses too fast in very, very humid, hot weather. And luckily for that time, I had plenty of water, plenty of shade. I wasn't in necessarily a tournament. I could just stop when I wanted. But you have to notice the signs. You have to notice the signs. And I can tell you that the sign for me when this happened to me 3 weeks ago was that, all right, I don't feel so hot, but I'm still thinking clearly. I'm not fading out. I'm not getting confused. I know what my name is. I know what all of the names on my card are. I know what my score is and everything else. As long as my brain was okay, I thought I'm going to be all right. But I can tell you this, the very second I would have started fading out, my brain might have started short circuiting or something like that. I absolutely would have been done. Absolutely. So, but I see Brandon Barron, this is Michael Mosely, obviously 2 different people have lived their lives completely differently. But we might think that both of them died for the same reasons. being where they shouldn't have been being. You know, Brandon was young, but he had his addictions. Michael Mosely took care of himself, but he wasn't a spring chicken anymore. And that's one of the things about getting older. Not do you get weaker and everything, but your body does not process, does not deal with the heat as well as it used to, even though all these old people moved to Florida. So just please, all of you, remember that. You know, we don't cover these disappearances just because we want them solved. Obviously, that's number one. But hopefully what you're all getting out of these episodes is also don't do this. Don't do this. See the signs. If you have a son or daughter that might be getting into an addiction, how do you keep them out of it? What can you do? Are you learning things from these guests who are talking about these issues? It's just not about solving disappearances. We can all learn things about we can implement into our own lives. Please remember that. Please. So, and these, sometimes we just have to use these disappearances also as cautionary tales. It very well may be that some of these people may never be found, and that sucks. Then we have to find some other way to find, to get some sort of value out of this, to get something out of this. It just cannot be a total lost cause where lives that are destroyed and nothing, can come of good can come of it. Let's listen to these stories and learn from them and put those implementations into our own lives. Yeah. Michelle says Dr. Mosley was very popular in Australia. I guess so, Michelle. Thank you. Hazel, very sad situation. Wife says he was an adventurer, so doing something he loved. It was quite a hike. I guess so. There is a map out there of where he was staying, where he was, where he might have been going, and all these points. And I don't know what his plan was. My understanding is he died just within yards of like a parking lot or something. So maybe he was close to his destination. Very well could be, but I don't know. He was very much loved and appreciated in United Kingdom. Okay, Hazel. Boston, thank you. You are very generous, Boston. You too, Lisa. What Boston and Lisa have done is they've both hit the super chat button. Thank you for reminding me, ladies, that you can contribute to Unfound by hitting if you're watching on YouTube anyway, you can contribute by hitting the super chat button, which is that little square with the $ in the middle of it. You can contribute, show support for the content we provide here. So Boston and Lisa, you are both very generous. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Fishing, good to see you. What's going on, Fishing? Good to see you. Kathy, Noah Pippin was in the military, died in the Bob Marshall Wilderness in Montana because he was unprepared, went missing August 2010. Name familiar. That's about it, Kathy. That's about it. Maybe somebody wants to look up that runner that I'm thinking of in Southern California, died while running through a park, and he was missing for maybe a week. I remember him being married and having kids, and they looked for him. I just don't remember what part of, I thought it was somewhere in California. Maybe one of you wants to look that up, that name. I know I'm going to have to look it up right after this show's over if one of you don't post it. But that's once again, another situation. The guy was used to doing this every day, probably pushed it that one step too far, and bad things happened. Okay, let's move on to this. Just a couple things. Within probably the next, let's just say before the end of July, being that would be about a month and a half from now, Unfound will be having an FBI agent, a retired one, as a guest. It's not to talk about any disappearance in particular. It's not like this agent is working on something right now and is coming on to talk about a particular disappearance. But I've gotten to know her through one of Unfound's guests who I've gotten to know well. And so I invited this agent to come on and talk about becoming an agent and some of the cases that she worked on. And we're going to talk about just crime in the United States. And she's excited to do it. And then she also has a show, and she's going to have me on her show. So I was the one that brought it up with her. She's very excited to do it. So, like I said, before the end of July, we're going to make this happen. So you can be looking for that. I think she and I are going to have a great talk. I'm particularly interested in talking to her about just crime in the United States in general and how the FBI views it and those kinds of things. But we're going to get into her career and some of the cases that she worked on. And I certainly want to talk to her about 9/11 and where she was at the time and what role did she play. Of course, the FBI played a huge role in trying to figure out what happened. Of course, it was eventually the military that had to do that. But the FBI, of course, was involved very quickly and did the investigation as well. Want to see if she was involved in any of that. Her memories, her impressions. We're going to get into all of that. Rockford says, Philip Krychek. Yeah, I think that's it. Facts. Up north, Pleasanton. That sounds correct, Rockford. That's the guy I'm thinking of who went for a run and then died during his run. Yeah, the guy in Pleasanton. A runner went on a run, Pleasanton Park, August 2021. Yeah, so I was right. About 3 years ago. Yes, that, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy and Rockford, for checking that out. That is exactly who was on my mind. So another heat exhaustion, it seems, leading maybe to a heart attack or something. So any of you not familiar with the disappearance and the discovery of Philip, I'm going to say Krychek, like Alex Krychek from the X-Files. Do any of you remember that? Kreycik, Kreycik, something like that. You can look that up if you're unfamiliar with it. Moving on, the Tyler North trial. It finally happened. Now, what actually happened was that Tyler North's ex-wife, Michelle, and the other guy actually pled out. They did not end up going to trial in this past month of May. I have to admit, I did not know this was going on. I had been looking for it, and right around the time I stopped looking for it, it happens. But in May, so just a month ago, this all went down, that Michelle, Tyler North's ex-wife, and this other guy who I think kind of got involved after the fact, they pled out and are going to jail. But Jeremy Lewis, who was Michelle, the new guy in the ex-wife's life, he decided he wanted to take this to a jury and didn't help much. Former Leslie County Sheriff's deputy was found guilty of murder on Tuesday. So this is last week. Jeremy Lewis was found guilty of first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with physical evidence. The ruling comes after a trial that lasted more than a week in the Clay County Circuit Court. Lewis was accused of murdering Tyler North in 2018 in Leslie County. Officials said the sentencing for Lewis will be in the Leslie County courthouse. The date and time has not yet been scheduled. Jury members recommended that Lewis spend 50 years in prison. That seems fitting. Now, for some of you who may not be familiar with who is Tyler North, Tyler North is probably Unfound's greatest example, best example of what we call luring, where a person went missing because this person was enticed to do something. And we might think about Jeff Nichols, and I think we have some other examples in Unfound's catalog, but this is the best one because we now know for sure what happened. Whereas Jeff Nichols is still missing, his remains haven't been found, as with these other ones. But with Tyler North, his sister was the guest, and I think this is a disappearance from maybe 2020, somewhere around COVID time. And what happened was he was at his sister's, and he left. And as I remember, he was following somebody, and somebody saw him pull into a local park. It was dark. Tyler should have been just continuing to follow this person, but instead Tyler North pulled into this park, never to be seen again. Later, his truck was found some distance away, miles away from that park, burned out, torched. And then eventually his remains were found. And what was discovered after the fact, and we even talked about this in the episode, and at this point, at the point that I think Unfound covered his disappearance, I don't think that anybody had been charged with anything yet. I don't think so. But what we found out, his family found out, was that even though Tyler and Michelle, and I think actually her real first name is something else, but I think she was referred to as Michelle in the episode, even though they were divorced, they were still getting together to have sex. They were having rendezvous. And it was discovered that even though he was at his sister's, nobody knew, even though he was surrounded by family and everything, he was texting with Michelle. And nobody knew this. And what happened was that Tyler thought he was meeting his ex-wife, for sex in this park. But what instead happened was that he showed up and Michelle was there with the new guy in her life, this Jeremy guy, and they killed him. Now, what exactly, I don't know if it came out in the trial what the motive was or anything like that. I have not gone back and listened to the interview to try to pinpoint anything. It's hard to say. Could be a custody issue. Being that we just covered the disappearance of Ray Fausto Lepe, which that could be the reason for his disappearance. We know of other custody problems that turned into disappearances that Unfound is covered. This could have been an issue because they did have kids together. Could have been something going on there. Could have just been a macho thing. She shows up and Michelle is complaining about Tyler for whatever reason, and Jeremy tells her, well, don't worry, I'll take care of him. You just get him here and I'll do it. Could be. So, so that one is finally can come to a conclusion. No longer when I do the update episodes do I have to say we're still waiting for that Tyler North trial. I don't have to say that anymore because we've been waiting for a while. Waiting for quite a while since they were taken into custody. Rockford, yeah, ILO and iced tea too, Rockford. Water and iced tea are the only two things that I drink these days. No soda, no nothing. Of course, I don't drink alcohol either. I have to admit, my body can't really process anything else. My body at this point hates soda. The fructose in it just destroys my digestive system. Although I will tell you, when I go to Five Guys once in a while, I do get a milkshake, but really it's just water and iced tea for me these days. Lisa says, okay, September 27th, 2019. That was the Tyler North episode. So that was right around when my friend Shay came down to visit me for some days, end of September 2019. So that came out right after I went on my fishing trip, the last fishing trip to Canada. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. So at that point, they were surely not yet charged with anything. What a bleep, right, Hazel? Fishing. I've been out with a broken leg. It's been a rough, long, almost 6 weeks, 2 more weeks to go. Well, fishing, you got to let us know how you broke your leg. Got to tell us. Rockford, I had a bad, the racing art. Okay. Yeah, I don't drink coffee. Don't drink coffee either. So there you go. Tyler North, everybody's going to jail as well. They should. And it's very sad. But he got lured. This just is one of those things. All of you people out there, don't fool around with your exes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want to remind everybody, being that we're a little over halfway through the live show tonight, please give this video a thumbs up if you're watching. We have a tremendous amount of viewers tonight. So I'm hoping we get a lot of thumbs up. So if you've not done so, please do that right now. In addition, as you saw with Lisa and Boston, they contributed through Super Chat. You might think about doing that as well before we are all done tonight. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on. I want to talk about Cherie Mahan. This is not yet a disappearance that we've featured on Unfound, and I have to admit we may never do that because this, if you're ever wondering, I've talked about it before, why don't we cover many child missing cases? I really, really in particular. Cherie Mahan's disappearance from Western Pennsylvania back in 1985 is a reason for this. To this day, 39 years later, over 39 years later, I'm still not sure who to believe with this disappearance. Now, for me, it's etched in my mind because at that time I would have been 14 years old. I grew up Leechburg, Pennsylvania, maybe 20 minutes to a half hour from where Cherie went missing. And you can find her. She's on the Charlie Project. She's on NamUs. Really, really, I think, well-known disappearance of a little girl in the 1980s. Maybe not as well-known as Janelle Matthews, being that President Reagan at the time mentioned her in one of his speeches. But Cherie Mahan was certainly one that disappearance got a lot of attention. And like I said, I don't remember the exact day or anything, but I remember it. February 85, I would have been in 8th grade. And I do kind of remember thinking, oh, little girl went missing not far away. And also, if you really, really, really go back on Unfound's YouTube channel, I actually went to the very spot because it's not far from where my dad lives. In fact, where my dad lives, I think, is now closer to where she disappeared than when I used to live when my mother lived in Leechburg. But I went over there and I actually spoke to a guy who was on that school bus that day. He happened to marry a girl that went to high school with me. So I met them there. I talked to them. And he described the scene where the bus stopped, and there's where she lived, and everything. And that video's on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. If you didn't know it existed, it's I think it's like one of the first videos I ever posted on this channel. Anyway, here's what's going on. The reason I'm talking about this: a woman is claiming to be Cherie Mahan, who infamously disappeared from a school bus stop as an 8-year-old girl nearly 4 decades ago. Cherie vanished after getting off her school bus about 50 feet from her Pennsylvania home. It was more than 50 feet. On February 22nd, 1985. After 13 years of dead ends, Cherie was declared legally dead in November 98, but an unnamed woman caused a recent firestorm by claiming to be Cherie in Facebook groups dedicated to finding her. Unanswered questions about the infamous cold case have hung over the community like a dark storm cloud for 39 years. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time a woman out of the blue has claimed to be Cherie. Very common. At least my perception is that women claiming to be Cherie is more common than anybody claiming to be any other missing person in the United States. my perception. Cherie's mom, Janice McKinney, said on Facebook that she doesn't believe the woman is her daughter and told a local newspaper, the Butler Eagle, it did not look like anything like Cherie at all. Nevertheless, the Pennsylvania State Police took the claim seriously and opened an investigation. State police said investigators are working with an out-of-state agency and attempting to reach the woman claiming to be Cherie several times. In one particular group, Memories of Cherie Mahan, the moderators deleted the woman's post and blocked her for harassing and bullying other members. This has been common. Lots of this stuff has gone on over the years. Of course, kind of know about it now that social media gets, but I'm going to guess before the internet started and social media and everything, I think this was even going on before that. Some people say, but what if it's really her? This has an easy answer. If it were really her, she could present herself at any police office and arrange for a DNA test without reaching out to people online making aggressive claims. That's true. McKinney replied, I talked to the police. They're investigating. This is very hard on me, so please be aware. I see everything. The cold case is troubling as it is puzzling. A young girl within a short distance of her own driveway disappeared while getting off a school bus. The only potential lead was a bright blue 1976 Dodge van with a mural of a mountain and a skier on it. Maybe some of this is all coming back to you now. Yeah, this is the disappearance that involves that van with the skier on the side, and you just do not even know. Growing up in that area, 85 into the 90s, it seemed every store, everywhere you went, you saw a sketch of that van with the skier on the side. It is, and of course, me always being interested in disappearances, even well before Cherie went missing, it was something. It was something to see, of course, for me, watching as a little kid in search of and everything, and then becoming a teenager, and this high-profile disappearance happening within 20 minutes from where I lived. It was something. But it's like a black hole opened up and she fell in, Cherie's mother told KDKA, which is a news station in Pittsburgh. Anyone with information about her whereabouts is asked to call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-843-5678. Let's see what everybody's saying, and then I will start talking about this. Rockford says, I am anti-coffee. Me kind of too. Hazel says, didn't we talk about this a few months ago? There was a van seen nearby. Yeah, that's it, Hazel. I might have talked about it back in February. I have to admit, I really don't remember because we just passed the 39th anniversary, and there was news in the Pittsburgh area about it. Hello, Fairy Magic. What's going on? Good to see you, Fairy. Of course, it's not her. Poor wee girl was murdered all those years ago. It's crazy this stuff goes on. Similar how that woman claimed to be Elaine. Yeah, or the woman who claimed to be Lucinda Hughes, or the guy who claimed to be Jeremy Dagus. Yep. Lisa, scrolled through your YouTubes. November 8th, 2017, Clinton Nelson looks to be your first YouTube on the Unfound channel. Yeah, that works out. So November, that was, so was that the summer of 2017 or the summer of 2018 that I went up and filmed that? Must have been, I'm thinking, because I remember I had the car that I have now, and I didn't get that car until the summer of 2017. Did I get it and then drive it to Pennsylvania? It's certainly possible. I'm thinking that was the summer of 2017 that I did that video. So that's going to be 7 years ago. That's crazy. All right. So I've been to the location, and I really don't remember what I said in that video. Of course, I was just a newbie back at the time. But some of the things that struck me about the area was that, man, that's a weird place for a truck stop, a bus stop. It's a back road. It's very windy. there is essentially no berm on either side. So if you're going to walk on that road, you actually have to walk on the pavement. And then as the car comes by, kind of just step off for a moment and then get back on there. But I guess, if you're bus, you got to stop somewhere. I mean, really, I guess there's no good place. You have a back road like that. There might be I don't remember really much of the road except that particular small area there where I was filming and met them and everything. I'm inclined to think this was certainly not a random act. This was not somebody who just happened to be driving behind the school bus, saw her get off the school bus and take her. That is not what happened. Surely what happened was that somebody knew that she was getting off that bus and probably had followed that bus before and watched when kids got off, because you have to remember something. She was not the only child who got off the bus at that stop. Something maybe that's sometimes lost in all of this. She was not the only child, the student child that got off there. There were several kids that got off at that stop. The difference was that to get to her place, her house, she had to go one direction where all of the others walked the other direction. Something important is kind of maybe left out over the years. So there's that. So somebody who would be abducting her would have to know this. Person's the predator. I realize we have like the Jacob Wetterling situation where that guy chose to take Jacob even though there were other kids there. And that was a random act. But that was kind of out in a busy area. There was like a store there and everything else. Where this happened, nothing. Not what we would call a target-rich environment to just randomly drive around and pick up a child. I will also tell you, and I know this is very controversial, and I've had a lot of time to think about this. I'm not convinced this van exists. Maybe it's just 8 years of podcasting, talking, and being so cynical about eyewitnesses and what people say and what they say they saw and the statements they make and their theories and how none of it ever seems to go anywhere. I will tell all of you that I'm not convinced this van exists. This just seems to me like, I'm not saying it's the person who took her that made it up. This just seems to me to be somebody who's just trying to say something to be helpful and isn't. You know, the example I always give, 7-Eleven clerk, 2 a.m, claims that some missing little girl was in there with some man. Police go down there screaming, calls 911. The police go driving down there, squeal into the parking lot, go to the video, nothing there. And it's very stereotypical, but I can talk about that because I worked in the convenience store business for like 10 months of my life, and I know how that is. The thing about the van is this. Yes, it wasn't seen after, and that's almost easy to understand. Well, of course, they're looking for my van. I got to ditch it. I got to, you can't sell it. You got to ditch it. You got to drive it into a lake somewhere, into a river, put it in a barn that you own or something. Certainly possible. The problem I have is, where was this van before she went missing? Did this person just paint it up that way like days before to kidnap her? That seems improbable. It's certainly conceivable, but certainly not. It's on the verge of stupidity, I think. Nobody's going to do that. So where was it before? This is a van that would stick out anywhere, even before a disappearance. People would remember, oh yeah, that person who has that van that has the skier on it. Yet nobody ever has come forward and said, oh yeah, I used to know a guy who owned a van like that. My neighbor had a van like that. I went to a car show and saw a van like that. And of course you have to remember, they say it was a 1976 model. If you don't remember, late 70s, these custom vans and things were a big thing until they all fell apart because they were all junk. But this was a big thing. People used to get together and there were clubs and all these things. Not one of those people in any of those clubs, and people usually, just like Ferrari owners or Porsche owners or something, they all know each other. Rolls Royce owners, they all know each other. Back in my day, when I was into Mustang GTs and drag racing, I knew all the other Mustang people who drag raced. Not one of those people has ever come forward. I knew this guy, John Smith, that had a van like that. Nothing. Still looking for it. So I can understand why they didn't find it after, because somebody might ditched it. But it's those 9 years before, from 76 when the van was made, I guess, until 85 that concerns me. Nobody. And I can't help but start thinking, maybe the van doesn't exist. And maybe this was a total red herring, just being spouted off by somebody who thought he or she was being helpful. And you think about, and of course, when you really, really think about it, it does sound a little stereotypical, right? It does sound a little Hollywoodish, doesn't it? Child gets abducted by mysterious van. That sounds more like a plot in a movie than reality. Whereas we know kids get abducted from all sorts of vehicles. And even, if we want to go with the disappearance, let me go to that one. Let me find it. What was her name? The little girl's name. Oh my gosh, I hate it when I can't. When we think about Kimberly Norwood, she might have been kidnapped by a guy on a motorcycle. But several people saw the van. No, Your Serenity. No, I think it was just one person. And what also makes me doubt this is because they are very specific in the description, in that it was a 76 model. And I urge you to go, because I've done this, not recently. I didn't do it today, but I've done this because I've always taken an interest in this disappearance. You go back and look at Dodge vans from the 1970s, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. They all look the same. There might be little design changes and tweaks here and there, styling changes and everything, but pretty much they all look the same. Because why? Well, when they make models of cars, they usually run kind of the same model for so many years. They may change the grill or the wheels, put a wing on the back, or change engines or things. But still, the general body style stays the same for a while. That even happens today. Even like with my Hyundai Sonata, they use the same body style from like 2014 to 2021 or something. With just little tweaks here and there. How do they know it's a 76 model? Did this person who described this van, did this person really know Dodge vans that well to say, oh yeah, it was absolutely a 76? Or remember details about it that somebody who knew enough about Dodge vans could say, oh, they're definitely describing a 76. It's just not possible. It's just not. Like, I know, going back to my drag racing days, the model, I had a 1990 Mustang GT. Unless you're really, 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 really into Mustangs of those years, you cannot tell the difference between an 87 and a 93. I can, because I own one and I was really into them. I can look at an 87, an 88, 89, and 90, 91. I can look at each of them and just look for little particular things in the exterior, the interior, to tell you what model it is. So this person that saw this van just happened to be a Dodge van expert. So, and I also wonder, why would somebody choose to kidnap a child in the most obvious vehicle possible? Why not just kidnap her in a purple Ferrari? So, I know these statements are controversial, and you'll probably never hear them on any other podcast or YouTube channel. Anybody that has ever spoken about Cherie Mahan's disappearance, I get it. I guess just I've had more time to think about it. I do this as work. This is my job, and she was, and this is also the reason that I think, I also have it written in my notes. We have to remember at the time, and I guess to this day, her parents were split up. Her mother was with a new guy, and they were waiting at home for Cherie to get there. And of course, she didn't make it. So they say. But her father was out there somewhere, and I have in my notes, it's just amazing to me, my perception, how many kids who have step parents go missing. My perception is that children being brought up by both or just even one single parent, they're much less likely to go missing than a child being brought up with a biological parent and a step parent. My perception. And so that's also in my mind as well. I realize I have my insight into this is totally different than everybody else's, but that's what we do on the live show. I get to tell you what I'm thinking. So let me see what everybody is saying here. Kathy's saying about, you were right about Cherie and Elaine. Most of these claims are hoaxes. I can think of only one missing infant that surfaced 30 plus years later, but he was so young, was his mom left him in Hawaii. If all of you don't know, one of the biggest coincidences ever. I worked at Star Trek, although I did not know him very well. I worked at Star Trek with a guy who ended up figuring out that he had been kidnapped as a baby. That's true. Is that weird or what? 20 years ago, I was working at Star Trek. Really didn't know him well because I worked on one side of the experience. He worked on the other. But he eventually, years after he worked at Star Trek, found out that he had been kidnapped as a baby and raised by somebody else. Go look that up. Maybe that's what you're talking about, Kathy. Was that short hair I saw in 2017? Yeah, it was. Short hair in 2017, Lisa. I've been actually growing this since my mother died in November of 2018 with just a little touch-ups here and there once in a while. I know we don't speculate, but I think it was her stepdad referring to Cherie Mahan. You are not alone, Fairy. Kid's name was Steve Carter. His mom was Charlotte Moriarty. He was abandoned in 1977, discovered who he really was at age 34. He lives in Pennsylvania. That's maybe not who I'm thinking of. This all happened. This guy was living in Las Vegas, Kathy. But several people saw that van, right? One person. Kids in the van, I think, saw it too. The bus. So they say. It's, like I said, Serenity, I realize I'm on a very thin limb here. But, they saw this van. Well, where did it go? We have to remember something. It was following the bus. Not allowed to pass buses. So what happened to this van? Did it turn around and go the other way? Did it pass it? Nobody seems to know, even though all people claim they saw it. So I get it, Serenity. Like I said, I'm on a thin limb here, but there's just so much that screams to me that what we understand, some of these things that are accepted about her disappearance are not true. Lisa, yeah, was joined. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, there you go. So that's what I have to say about Cherie Mahan. I know it's controversial. Not maybe what you were expecting, but maybe some of you have never even heard of her disappearance before. Why don't you look at it? Now, the other thing you have to remember is I can remember some years ago, well before I started Unfound, that I would go on to Web Sleuths and go to the Cherie Mahan thread there, which I don't probably there. It's just cooking these days, given what's happened recently. I haven't been on that thread for years and years and years. But I can remember people claiming, well, I remember seeing that van here, seeing that van there. And when I lived in Pittsburgh, one neighbor, it never turns out to be anything. So anybody who believes that this van exists, you tell me how this person was not identified right away, who had such a unique vehicle such as this. This is what I'm going to keep coming back to. You tell me why, because everybody knows. I mean, this became a national thing. Everybody knows that they're looking, all the police agencies across the United States to this day surely have it somewhere, be looking for a van with a skier on the side. Now, I realize probably eventually the person did get rid of the van, but you would think that it would have reminded somebody from years before, somebody somewhere in the last 40 years would have said, oh, yeah, I live next to a guy and I know his name and I know where you can find him and everything else. Nothing. Now, if it was, going back to the 1980s, if it was a white Chevy Cavalier, totally different situation. But you talk about a one-off van that surely everybody would remember, and the only people who allegedly saw it were people on that road that day. It sounds improbable. That's me. Lisa, you look great with short hair too. I'm sure other listeners agree, but when I listened before I ever saw you, you're nothing like I pictured. Well, you are right, Lisa. I do look great with no matter what kind of hair I have. I agree. So let's get to these. You know what these are. You know what these are. These are the Steve Panky letters. I had not written to him in a while, but I sent him. When did I send him that letter? I sent him. It wasn't too long ago. He got back to me. That letter got out there, and he got back to me fairly quickly, is my perception. So I'm going to read to you what he had to say. And I'm not going to be able to read all of it because, he makes allegations that people lied and everything, and I am certainly not getting into that. But I'm going to read to you sections. He actually sent me 3 letters, but he has told me that when he mails stuff out, he's only allowed to put the maximum of 2 sheets of paper in one letter. So I got 3 letters from him, but 2 pieces of paper in one piece of paper in one, and another 1 piece of paper. So that's what he says. I don't know. So this is what he said. This is the first one. This is the 2-pager. Like I said, there are certain things here that I'm not going to read because he makes, well, Steve. Ed, I was overjoyed to receive your letter yesterday. To hear from you is a big deal to me. To know you mentioned my case on your podcast, technically the live show, gives me hope. I'm glad some of your listeners see problems in my case. My case is not a slam dunk. The Denver Post stated there are more acquittals with private attorneys than public defenders. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. He says, about a year before my case was filed, the Weld County DA prosecuted a man who killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. The DA was criticized for giving immunity to his girlfriend. I don't know if this is true. In my case, the DA refused my info deal. Well, yeah, I think we know why they refused it, Steve. Let's see what else he says. He talks about his distrust of the legal and law enforcement system. And then he goes on to talk about how he allegedly, allegedly owes the state costs of the 2 trials or something like I said. I don't know if that's true or not. He says that the first trial cost him $250,000 plus expenses. That doesn't sound unreasonable to me. He says everything I said came from my spin on what I experienced in 1977, December 19th, 20th, 84, and December 27th, 1984. I am innocent. I reasonably assumed Janelle's body was in New Raymer and a property I had owned. He wrote this. And I'm not going to write in the next part because he claims that somebody's lying. All my criminal Janelle charges are specifically stating that evening of December 20th to the early morning hours of December 21st, 1984. I'm the only witness to the fact I was home during the above material time period. His ex-wife doesn't remember December 20th, 1984. So Steve says, the Matthews testified they didn't know me. I didn't know them. I didn't have any contact with Janelle alive or dead, which is something that that was never presented at trial. Either trial. Period. 0. And he goes, I had no knowledge of the burial site. I am innocent. So that is what I can read from the first letter. The second letter is this one. He says that he's talked to me a lot about the discovery for both trials, meaning both the prosecution and the defense goes before the judge and they want to get in all this stuff, and then the judge makes a decision what can be admitted and what can't. And of course, anything that the prosecution finds has to be handed over to the defense, for legal reasons, for a fair trial and everything else. And so he's brought this up to me, and I certainly would like to get my hands on this. This what they call the discovery that was done before both of the trials. But he says the first 500 pages, it's of course a huge amount of discovery, are the most important and back up what I said, because he said several things that were in the discovery allegedly, once again, allegedly were not in the trial. Until I see the discovery stuff, I don't know. And he is giving me permission to get that. He wants me to get that material. I've tried to get it, not successful yet. But he claims that his first attorney, Tony Vorst, who I have had a contact with, not recently, has that. And Steve is giving Tony permission to give it to me. I don't know if Mr. Vorst needs Steve's permission or not, but he just wrote something out and signed it saying, he wants me to have it if Tony will give it to me. So if I get it, I'll let you know. And I told him about the 2 shows that haven't come out yet. And he goes, I cannot solve the Janelle Matthews case because I don't have all the puzzle pieces. I'm innocent in the disappearance and death and burial of Janelle Matthews. So that's that letter. And then the final one, he's talking to all of you who thinks he's guilty, so I might as well read it. Ed, your listeners who believe I'm guilty did not base their belief on December 21st, 1984 testimony, because there wasn't any. I have no connection to the Matthews, their house, or the burial site. To believe I'm guilty requires believing the circumstantial testimony. I'm innocent, and there is no justice for Janelle. And then I'm not going to read this. He talks about an alleged connection between someone or some entity and the spot where Janelle's remains were found, and I'm not going to make that public. So So there you go. And of course, then he says, consider there's more evidence Norris Drake is culpable. And Norris Drake even puts his date. He was born in 1951, died in 2007. So at the time, Norris Drake in 1984 would have been 33 years old. So that is some of what I can read from the Steve Panky letters. Like I said, the only parts I left out are where he mentioned some names and some things that, I just have to gauge if I can read some of this stuff or not. Certainly, I'm not going to mention anything where he claims certain people are lying. We don't know if they're lying or not. And then when he tries to make this connection between a certain entity and the burial site where Janelle was found, I don't know. I'm not getting into that either. I'm not going to air that out. So Steve, I had not written to him in a while since, I don't know, maybe going back even before I went to see my dad back in March, maybe. So it had been a while. And so I did email, or I did message him, send a letter a couple weeks ago, and he got back to me fairly quickly. And these are dated July 1st and November 30th, but I don't think they ended up in my mail till the middle of last week. So, and the thing is, I was talking to my dad today, and I told him I got a couple letters from this guy, and of course, my dad just thinks I'm insane. Let's see what everybody says here. Lisa says, I've always seen problems in Panky's case, really no evidence, and his letters to you are fascinating. I'll keep writing them. I mean, once again, I'm going to state this. This is not for any reason other than if he's guilty, I'm hoping that he is going to slip up one of these times and say something that was not known, that he's kept a secret, something that is actionable. In addition, I continue to write to him because I really do want to get this discovery stuff, and maybe by communicating with him, that will maybe eventually allow me to get my hands on all the trial discovery stuff, at least for the first trial, being that I do have I don't know if the public defenders for a second trial want to get involved in something like that. But from the first trial, being that I've had a connection with Tony Vjorst, even though it's been a while, maybe we can make that happen. And the question, though, I really don't know. Are discovery materials considered to be public? Are they private? I don't know. So, but if I get that stuff eventually, this year, next year, whenever, and it is public material, you can be assured that if it's allowed, now very well may be, if I get it, I'm the only person that's allowed to look at it. It very well could be. And I'll have to apologize to all of you that I can't show all of you. I will feel bad about that. But it is something where I get it, and it is stuff that can be made public. I'll certainly make that happen. I'll certainly make that happen, and it will be posted on Facebook or wherever else, and you'll be able to download the files or something. Or maybe if they send me, of course, if they send it to me like in a stack, I don't know how I have to admit, I'm not going to take photos, all that stuff, and post it. I might be not worth my time. But if they send it to me as a PDF file or something, I'll do what I can. I will certainly, that would be easier. Because he keeps making these statements about there's things in discovery that weren't allowed in the trial. I don't know. I'm not asking any of you to believe any of it. And, you see me shaking my head and shrugging my shoulders. I don't know if any of it's true either. It's easy for him to talk about it and say these things in the discovery that show that he got screwed over in his trial when we haven't seen it yet. Anybody can make those claims. So until I actually see that stuff, I'm going to be doubtful all I will continue to say, this continues to be my standpoint. I told it to my dad today. There's certainly no way beyond a reasonable doubt that the prosecution proved its case. There is no way. I continue to believe that the jury found him guilty because they just wanted to make the whole thing go away, that they felt bad for the Matthews family. I feel bad for the Matthews family too. I do too. But I know this is crazy. It shouldn't be crazy to say. This is how at least the United States works. We don't base guilt and innocence on people's feelings. And, finding somebody guilty or finding somebody innocent, how that's going to make a family or victims or anybody feel about it. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. I realize we have like OJ and some other people who have gotten away with murder. I get it. Sucks. But I still believe that the prosecution did not prove its case. I'll go through it again. Never put Steve on that. If they could, maybe they could, and they couldn't allow it into the trial because they found out it in some illegal way. I don't know. Very well could be true. I don't know. But never could put him on that street. Never can prove he even knew Janelle Matthews existed. Could never prove that he knew that even the Matthews family existed. Never proved or never even attempted to show that Steve ever owned a gun of the same caliber that was used to shoot Janelle. Never could prove he had any connection to the area where she was found buried. No forensics of him, no fingerprints of his at the house. The footprints in the yard, I don't think could prove that were they his size. Did he have shoes that matched the prints? All of this, all of it. And the jury still found him guilty. It seems like a stretch to me. So let's see here. Hazel, discovery is public, isn't it? Trying to find that out. The other thing, Hazel, is that I may be able to get my hands on the records, but they don't do that for free. And it very well may be that they may be totally cost prohibitive, given how much material there may be. I will admit, if it's a couple $100 to get all the discovery materials, I will spend that to get it. If it's a couple $1,000, then I have to really start wondering, what are we doing here? U.S. trial info is open, Hazel, but this is not technically trial info. This is all the stuff that went on before the trial where they go talk to the judge and the prosecution wants to enter all this material. The defense wants to enter all this material. And of course, some of it might not be trial worthy, or it might be have gotten through shady means or something like that. That's, part of the discovery. How rare is it that an interview on Unfound is with the person convicted of killing the missing person? Well, me interviewing Steve is certainly a one-off, Lisa. That was a one-time thing. Boss, I enjoyed reading the files from that case in Florida with the young girl Jennifer Perry that went missing. And there was a question of law enforcement being involved. They said that she ran away. Lots of files there. Yeah, and she's still missing 30 years later. I think getting all that FOIA material only complicated things. Sometimes how it works. Yeah, Jennifer Perry. There's a high-profile New Zealand case from early 2000s that's just gone to another appeal. Beyond reasonable doubt was in no way reached. Scott Watson convicted in the disappearance of Olivia Hope and Ben Smart. He did not do it. Okay, Hazel. So we'll continue to work on that behind the scenes. I'll let you know how it progresses. If I can get this discovery material, In fact, I for sure I will be emailing lawyer Tony Vjorst tomorrow and sending him a picture of this letter with Steve's signature on it and see if what he thinks about this. He may say, "No, I can't give it to you. I'm not going to beg for it. I'm just asking." Just asking. So, but he's a bit of a scoundrel, so is convicted on that basis for Scott Watson, New Zealand. Okay, Hazel. Yeah. Is there anything else that I wanted to get to? I'm running out of time here. I got 5 minutes left. Got to that. I think I got to the important stuff tonight. The really, really, really stuff that I wanted to get to. If you're interested, Jeff Wise's season 2 of his podcast is out. You might want to check that out on YouTube, right here on YouTube. I have to admit, I've not checked it out yet. Nothing against Jeff, of course. What I didn't get to, unfortunately, was this Nadia Erika Cole situation. She goes missing. Her fiance and the fiance's 2-year-old daughter. This is being that we're just talking about custody. This is a custody situation. This guy, Aaron Ong, took his daughter and his fiance Nadia, and I guess FBI or whoever thinks they went to Mexico. So we have custody again. Of course, recently we just talked about that on Unfound Ray Fausto Lepe, which is a possibility for his disappearance from years ago. I didn't have a chance to read. I have the story here, but I just don't have time to read it. But this is one of those, I don't think this if they went to Mexico, this disappearance isn't going to last very long. I don't think that he has any connections to Mexico. I don't think she has any connections to Mexico. I mean, really, we need to think about it this way. By going down there, they are putting all 3 of them in deep danger of just getting killed because they're there. Remember, we had this story about those surfers who went down to Baja, California and got murdered and their bodies were found. Yeah, she was supposed to be going on a trip with her parents to Italy. They went to the airport. She took off, took this train away, surely met up with him and his daughter's 2-year-old daughter, and they drove the whole way from the northwest of the United States to Mexico, is I guess what the FBI thinks. Maybe they're misleading everybody. Maybe they're here in Florida now, for all I know. But they're all, not just Nadia, but all of them are in a huge amount of danger going down into that country and riding around. That's bad. You know, I mean, certainly Nadia is. It's a bad decision on her part. Bad, horrible, stupid decision. But surely them, if that's what they really did, going to Mexico is an even worse decision. So I'll keep eyes on that. This was certainly all planned out. They planned beforehand to meet somewhere. And by the way, we're supposed to be looking for a black Cadillac XTS with Idaho license plate 1L5147U. Likely traveled to Mexico. Just bad. Stupid kids, man. Stupid kids. It's one. Yeah, bad. Let's go to this Friday's episode. The disappearance. We're going to Canada. Carl Schooner Jr. Schooner. He went missing from Williams Lake, British Columbia, somewhere around December 2nd of 2022. So weirdly, about exactly 32 years after Elaine Johnson went missing, of course, this most recent disappearance, we're going from like December 1st of 1990 to about December 1st of 2022. His father and his mother are the guests, although the father does most of the talking. It's not a lot. I'm going to tell you right now. Not a very long interview. And Mr. Schooner, Carl Schooner Sr., is a man of few words. I did the best I could. I'm here to help, but not everybody can be like Elaine Johnson's daughter, Jody Malcolm, who might have done one of the best interviews in the history of Unfound. That's just the way it works sometimes. So you're really going to have to concentrate, really going to have to listen very closely. The interview's only about 50 minutes long, though. You know, it's very, very short. But Carl and a friend went to Williams Lake, British Columbia. They went to a party, and his friend left the party, said Carl was still there. And when the father of Carl went to pick him up a couple days later, he could not find Carl anywhere. And the woman in Carl's life didn't have much to say either. So you can look that up. A couple weird things, as you would suspect, about this disappearance. Carl Schooner Jr., Williams Lake, British Columbia, Canada, and he went missing somewhere around December 2nd, December 3rd of 2022. So that's all I got. Thank you all for watching and listening. Please give this a thumbs up. We might have set a record for viewers tonight if that number is true. I'm seeing up in the left-hand corner. That would be crazy. And that's all I got for tonight. Like I said, Lisa's calling this show epic. I agree. Jeremy, Bell Vernon, been there, Jeremiah, been there to Bell Vernon. Pittsburgh, go Pirates. And that's all I got. I hope you all have a beautiful week. And the episode will be coming out this Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, or early the day before for all of you YouTube and Patreon supporters. Good night. And I didn't see my nephew Charlie in here tonight. I must have missed him. He might have had something else to do, but I'll still say it anyway. Say hi to the kids for me, Charlie. And Cherie, thank you for moderating tonight. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. See ya.